The rain-slicked streets of Portland gleamed under sodium lamps like veins of forgotten promises. And Easton Harper slammed his truck door so hard the frame rattled, his heart pounding a frantic Morse code against his ribs. "You think you can just erase me like one of your goddamn sketches?" he roared into the night, voice cracking like thunder over the Willamette. But the figure on the stoop, his lover of 3 years, silhouette blurred by the downpour, didn't flinch, just held up that cursed drawing like a white flag of surrender. In the watercolor smear of what should have been their future, Easton's childhood home stared back at him, its sagging porch and wild hydrangeas rendered with a precision that sliced deeper than any knife, a secret buried in pigment, a truth his family had painted over long before he ever picked up a protest sign. Easton stumbled back, the sketch crumpling in his fist, rain mixing with the hot sting of betrayal on his cheeks. He'd built his life on unearthing hidden stories, founding Haven Threads, a non-profit stitching together shelters and support for queer youth kicked out by families who couldn't stomach the rainbow. But this was his own ghost, inked by the man who'd sworn to hold him through the storms. Easton Harper had always chased the light in the cracks, the kind that seeped through boarded-up windows of old Victorian houses in southeast Portland, illuminating the dust motes of lives left behind. At 32, he was the kind of guy who wore his heart like a badge on his flannel sleeve, broad-shouldered from hauling donation boxes, hazel eyes that crinkled with empathy during board meetings, and a laugh that could disarm even the most guarded runaway kid. Haven Threads wasn't just his baby, it was his redemption, born from the ache of his own teenage exile. Kicked out at 16 for that fumbling kiss with his best friend behind the bleachers of Lincoln High, Easton had couch-surfed his way through the underbelly of the city, learning early that love could be as fickle as Oregon weather, sunny one minute, a deluge the next. But tonight, as he peeled out of that rain-lashed driveway on Belmont Street, tires hydroplaning toward the Hawthorne Bridge, the drawing burned in his passenger seat like a live wire. It was Alex who'd handed it to him, Alex with his artist's hands stained cerulean and his promises whispered in the dark of their tiny craftsman rental. "I found it in a thrift haul," Alex had said earlier that evening, voice soft as he unrolled the canvas over their kitchen table, fairy lights twinkling like hesitant stars. "Your eyes lit up when you saw it. Isn't it wild? Like fate or something." Easton had traced the lines with trembling fingers, the crooked chimney his dad had patched with duct tape after that '98 hailstorm, the swing where he'd daydreamed about boys who looked like movie stars, not the girls his mom paraded in family photos. "How the hell did you know this was my place?" he'd asked, a grin tugging at his lips despite the knot in his gut. The address was smudged, but the details screamed home. The rusted birdbath his sister Lila had filled with fireflies one summer, the oak tree scarred from his rope swing crash at 10. Alex had shrugged, that boyish tilt to his head that always made Easton's chest ache with want. "Lucky guess? Or maybe I just pay attention to you." They'd made love right there on the table, slow and fervent, Alex's sketches of Portland's queer underbelly scattered like confetti. But hours later, when Easton suggested framing it for the nonprofit's auction, turning personal ghosts into communal healing, Alex's face had shuddered. "It's not for sale," he'd muttered. And then the fight erupted like a fault line cracking open. Alone in the cab of his '02 Ford Ranger, Easton cranked the heat against the chill seeping into his bones, NPR murmuring about climate refugees in the static. He should have seen the signs, Alex's late nights at the studio, the way his phone buzzed with notifications he silenced too quickly. But Easton was a fixer, not a fighter. He'd poured everything into Haven Threads, expanding from a sewing circle for trans elders to a network of tiny homes funded by tech bros' guilt money. Last month, they'd housed their 500th kid, a wiry 17-year-old named Kai with a black eye from his stepdad's ring. "You're my hero, Mr. Harper," Kai had whispered during intake, clutching a pillow like a shield. Easton had ruffled his hair, fighting the lump in his throat. Heroes didn't shatter over a sketch. He pulled into the nonprofit's lot off Division Street, the squat brick building glowing faintly from solar panels he'd installed himself. Inside, the air smelled of fresh-cut linens and chamomile tea, volunteers folding blankets under fluorescent hum. Lila was there, his older sister by 8 years, her red ponytail swinging as she sorted yarn donations. She looked up, concern etching lines around her green eyes, the same eyes their mom had sworn came from good Irish stock, ignoring the softer hazel in Easton's gaze that whispered of their absent father. "East? It's past midnight. You look like hell froze over and you're the tour guide." She wiped flour from her apron. Lila baked scones for the youth mornings, her way of mothering the family Easton couldn't. He collapsed into a folding chair, the drawing unfurling like a surrender flag on the scarred oak table. "Alex. He drew this. My house. A house. But it's not just a doodle. Look. It's got stuff in it I never told him about." She peered closer, her breath catching. The watercolor wasn't crude, it was meticulous, almost photographic in its emotional pull. In the foreground, a boy, maybe 12, gangly limbs and a mop of chestnut hair, perched on the porch steps, knees drawn up, staring at a Polaroid clutched in his fist. The photo within the drawing showed 2 men, arms slung casual around each other, grins wide under a '92 Mariners cap. Easton's dad and someone else? The lines blurred at the edges, but the intimacy screamed louder than any caption. "Holy shit," Lila breathed, sinking beside him. "That's Dad." "But Uncle Ray?" But they said Ray was just a buddy from the force. "Portland PD poker nights and all that crap." Easton nodded. "Throw tight." Their father, Thomas Harper, had vanished when Easton was 14, like smoke from one of his Camel Straights. Mom had spun it as a midlife crisis. He needed space. Men get restless. But the fights had escalated that year. Whispers behind closed doors. Mom's Bible thumping harder on the nightstand. Distant, already wrestling his own shadows in the mirror, stolen glances at the quarterback in gym class, had buried the questions deep, focusing on survival when she turned on him 2 years later. Lila traced the boy's face in the drawing, the spitting image of young Easton, down to the freckle on his left cheek. Alex couldn't have known this. He wasn't even born when Dad split. So where'd he get the details? The question hung like fog off the river. Easton pulled out his phone, scrolling Alex's Instagram, endless reels of urban decay. Queer icons inked on brick walls. Nothing about family portraits. But they're buried in a story highlight from last summer, a tag from @RaymondVance_. A grainy scan of an old sketchbook page. Found treasures at estate sale, Harper vibes all over this one. Who's the mystery man? Easton's blood ran cold. Raymond Vance. Uncle Ray. The affable cop who'd snuck him comic books during visitations? His laugh booming like a bass line in the tense Harper household. Who Dad had called my shadow, who vanished the same night Thomas did. Coincidence? Or the kind of secret that rots from the inside out? By dawn, Easton was on the road to Astoria, the coastal town where Ray had reportedly retired after 30 years on the force. Lila had dug up the address from an old PD roster, her fingers flying over her laptop like a lifeline. Go get your answers. But promise me, don't let this break you more than it already has. The drive north hugged the Columbia Gorge, mist-shrouded cliffs a mirror to his churning mind. Easton blasted Springsteen, Thunder Road, on repeat, trying to outrun the what-ifs. What if Dad and Ray had been lovers? What if Mom's rage at Easton wasn't just small-town bigotry, but a widow's grief twisted into denial? And Alex, had he known? Was the drawing a gift? Or a grenade with the pin half-pulled? Astoria's Victorian spires pierced the gray sky like accusatory fingers, the town clinging to its seafaring soul amid tourist traps and craft breweries. Ray's bungalow sat on a bluff overlooking the Columbia's mouth, wind chimes tinkling like hesitant confessions. Easton knocked, heart hammering, and when the door creaked open, there stood Raymond Vance, silver hair cropped military short, frame still broad from bench presses, eyes the color of driftwood softened by time. Easton Harper, Ray said, voice gravelly with surprise, pulling him into a bear hug that smelled of pipe tobacco and salt air. Christ. You look just like him. They settled in the living room, cluttered with nautical charts and dog-eared paperbacks, Steinbeck, Baldwin, the kind of reads that peeled back souls. Over black coffee in mugs chipped from 80s precinct fundraisers, Ray listened as Easton spilled it. The drawing? Alex's betrayal, or was it? The ache of half-remembered summers when Ray's patrol car idled too long in their driveway. Ray's face crumpled, lines deepening like furrows in clay. He fetched a shoebox from the closet, dust motes dancing in the slanted light. Inside, letters bound with twine, Polaroids faded to sepia, a sketchbook identical to the one in Alex's post. You're dead. Thomas was my everything, Ray admitted. We met on the job, rookies busting heads in the 70s, when being queer meant a one-way ticket to the shadows. Portland was no rainbow paradise. It was bars with backroom deals and raids at dawn. We hit it. Easton. Good. We hit it so deep I still taste the lie. The first letter was from 1985. Thomas's scrawl looping like waves. Ray. Every shift without you feels like holding my breath underwater. The boys asking questions. Lila wants a treehouse. Easton's got that fire in his eyes. But nights like this, with Mary asleep upstairs, I dream of us on that beach in Cannon. No badges, no clocks. Easton read it twice, the words blurring through tears. His dad, stoic Tom Harper, who grilled burgers with quiet precision and fixed bikes with calloused hands, had been a poet in the margins. We plan to come out, Ray continued, passing a photo, the two of them, arms linked on a pier, mariners' caps shading faces alight with stolen joy. But then AIDS hit like a tidal wave. Friends dropping, guys we'd shared smokes with in the lockers, gone in months. Mary got pregnant with Lila right after, and Thomas. He buckled. Said he couldn't risk the kids growing up without a dad. Not in that climate. We broke it off clean, or so we thought. But he kept coming back, porch visits, poker nights. It was torture. Stupid torture. Easton clutched the photo, the boy's face from the drawing overlaying his own memory, hiding in the oak tree. watching Dad and Ray murmur on the swing, their hands brushing in ways that made his young heart flutter with unspoken kinship. Why'd he leave? That night, Mom said it was wanderlust. But you both vanished. Ray's eyes glistened, the bluff wind rattling the panes. A call came in, routine traffic stop turned ugly. Dispatch had a tip, undercover sting on a bathhouse off Burnside. They were rounding up deviants, and Thomas panicked. Thought if they dug, they'd find us. He told Mary he was going for a drive, packed a bag, met me at the station. We drove south to Cali, lived quiet for a year under aliases. But he couldn't hack it, the guilt ate him alive. Sent me away, said to tell no one. Last I heard, he was in Seattle, working docks, dying slow from the bottle. Liver gave out in '09. I went to the funeral incognito, back pew, hat low. Saw you there, all grown, carrying his casket like Atlas. The room spun, Easton's world tilting on its axis. His father, a ghost who'd haunted every coming-out fight, every Haven Threads grant proposal citing familial rejection statistics. Not a coward, but a casualty of fear, of an era that criminalized love. And Mom? Her Bible-thumping fury at Easton's confession now reeked of projection. A widow lashing at the mirror of her own buried doubts. I kept the sketchbook, Ray said, sliding it over Thomas's hand. No doubt. Urgent lines capturing their stolen moments. The childhood home-filled pages, porch, swing, all laced with subtle codes, a shared glance, a lingering touch. He drew to remember. To a toe. Maybe. Easton's phone buzzed. Alex. We need to talk. I'm sorry. He silenced it, the weight of secrets shifting from chest to shoulders. Did you ever regret it? Hiding. Ray leaned back, gazing at the river's roil. Every damn day. But regret's a thief, it steals the joy you did snatch. Easton, you're proof we got something right. Building that haven for kids like we wished we'd had. That's the legacy. By dusk, Easton hugged Ray goodbye, the shoebox tucked under his arm like contraband. The drive back south felt lighter, the gorge's winds whispering absolution. But as Portland's skyline pricked the horizon, his phone lit up again. Lila. Mom's at the ER. Fall down the stairs. Come quick. The hospital's antiseptic bite clawed at Easton's throat as he burst through the doors, the shoebox thumping against his thigh like a guilty heartbeat. Providence Portland Medical Center buzzed with the controlled chaos of a Friday night, beeping monitors, harried nurses in scrubs patterned with cartoon hearts, the low sob of a woman in the waiting room clutching a toddler. Lila met him at the triage desk, her face pale under the harsh fluorescence, ponytail frayed like her nerves. Slipped on the landing, she said, voice a tight wire. Hips fractured, but they're saying it's the pneumonia that worries them. She's been coughing blood. Maybe. Wouldn't let me call till it got bad. Their mother, Eleanor Harper, lay in a curtain bay. 68 years etched into every furrow, silver-streaked bob matted with sweat. Skin translucent as onion skin paper. Eyes fluttering open to fix on him with that familiar mix of steel and sorrow. Easton, she rasped, hand trembling toward his. Didn't mean to. Fuss. He took it. Calluses rough against her fragility. the drawing's ghosts swirling in his periphery. Why didn't you say? Took off. A wet rattle that twisted his gut. Pride. Son. Always was my sin. The doctor, a brisk woman with a stethoscope like a medal, interrupted with charts. Stage 3. Caught late. Prognosis guarded. Hospice discussions loomed like storm clouds. In the dim family lounge, over vending machine coffee that tasted of regret, Lila unpacked the shoebox while Mom dozed under morphine's haze. Photos spilled, Dad and Ray grinning at a PD barbecue, their shoulders brushing in frames Mom had cropped ruthlessly. Letters. 2. Thomas's confessions. Pleas for forgiveness from a motel in Reno. And the sketches. Page after page of their childhood home. Not as backdrop but as sanctuary. The house of vessel for unspoken desires. Lila's gasp echoed Easton's from Astoria. Jesus. It's us. All of it. She flipped to a drawing of the kitchen table. Mom's back turned. Dad and Ray at the counter. Hands intertwined under the pretense of pouring coffee. She knew. Had to have. The realization settled like lead. Eleanor's poker nights, scorn. Her sudden vehemence when Easton came out. You'll end up broken. Like him. Not hatred, but horror at history's echo. She'd buried Thomas's truth to protect them. Or so she told herself, papering over the cracks with church potlucks and denial. Back in the room, Easton sat vigil alone. The sketchbook open on his lap. Moonlight slanted through blinds, casting bars across her face. Mom, he whispered when her eyes cracked open. I saw Dad's drawings. With Ray. Her breath hitched. A tear tracing the crow's feet. Should have burned him. But all of it. No, Easton said. Voice steady as the bridge cables he'd crossed 100 times. Message. Scared love. Like what you gave us. Even when it hurt. She turned away. But not before he saw the fracture, the woman who'd raised them solo. Waitressing doubles at the diner off 82nd. Her Bible a shield against the whispers of that cop's wife. He left us for a man, she murmured finally. Words crumbling. Called from California. Voice slurred, raise my heart. Ellie. Can't pretend anymore. I hung up. Told the kids he was fishing in Alaska. Easier that way. Easton squeezed her hand. The morphine-loosening tongues long knotted. It wasn't easier. It broke us all. Most, thinking I was the flaw. The reason families shatter. Her eyes met his. Raw as peeled fruit. You were never the flaw. Baby. I was. Saw too much of him in you, that quiet fire. When you told me about that boy, I saw Thomas walking out again. Lashed out to keep you safe. From the world. From me. Tears carved paths down his cheeks. Hot and unbidden. For the first time, he saw her not as villain, but vessel, cracked but holding, human in her hypocrisy. They talked till dawn, her Astoria courtship with Thomas, Ray's easy charm at barbecues, the night she found the letters in his glove box, the AIDS funerals she'd attended in secret, rosary beads clenched like anchors. I prayed for him every night, she confessed. Even after. For you, too, forgive me that. By morning, Easton stepped into the hall. Drained but unburdened. Dialing Alex amid the pager's wail. Voicemail, I'm at the studio. Come if you want truth. The address was a warehouse loft in the Pearl District. Once industrial grit, now gentrified with wine bars and galleries. Easton arrived as the sun burned off fog, the Columbia glittering like fool's gold below. Alex opened the door in paint-splattered overalls. Dark curls tousled, blue eyes shadowed with the kind of regret that artists wear like berets. The loft sprawled, canvases leaning like dominoes, turpentine sharp in the air. A king bed rumpled in the corner where they'd first mapped each other's bodies like uncharted coasts. You drew it, Easton said. Not accusation but fact. Holding up the watercolor. My house. Dad's secrets, Alex nodded, gesturing to a workbench littered with ephemera, thrift store hauls. Yellowed clippings. Bought the sketchbook at that estate sale in Selwood, Harper tag inside the cover. Thought it was coincidence till I saw your baby pics on Lila's fridge last Christmas. The boy on the porch. That's you, isn't it? I filled in the blanks with what I imagined. Your stories about the swing, the tree. Wanted to surprise you. Show I saw you. All of you. Easton's chest tightened, betrayal's edge dulling to misunderstanding. Then why the fight? Why hand it over like a bomb? Alex crossed the room, hands hovering before cupping Easton's face, thumbs brushing stubble. Because it's not just art. The seller, some cousin of Ray's, mentioned the originals were Thomas Harper's. Said there was more, a journal. Locked away. I panicked. Thought if I gave it to you, it'd drag up ghosts you weren't ready for. And me? I'm terrified of being the guy who breaks you open. They sank to the bed, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces worn smooth by use. Easton recounted Astoria, the hospital, Mom's confessions, the full cascade. Alex listened, fingers tracing Easton's tattoo, the vines a metaphor for roots reclaiming concrete. I should have trusted you, Alex murmured, lips brushing Easton's temple. You're the strongest man I know, building empires from ashes. Laughter bubbled up, brittle but real, as they ordered Thai from the spot on Burnside, sprawled on the floor amid sketches. For a moment, it was easy, Alex's head on Easton's thigh. Stories flowing like the Willamette, his own coming out in a conservative Philly suburb. The nonprofit dreams they'd whispered about merging, haven threads with an art therapy wing. But as night deepened, Easton's phone vibrated. Lila. Mom's stable, but asking for you. She wants the drawings. All of them. The next days blurred into a rhythm of grace and grit. Easton shuttled between hospital and loft. Alex at his side with sketchpads and takeout. Lila orchestrating visits like a general. Mom rallied enough for a family powwow in her room. 4 drip beeping counterpoint to the revelations. She held the sketchbook like a relic, fingers tracing Thomas's lines. He was good. Your dad. Flawed as the rest of us. Love fierce. Even if he ran from it. Ray drove down from Astoria uninvited, arriving with crab cakes and a quiet dignity. The air crackled when he entered, Mom's eyes widening, then softening as decades dissolved in a handshake-turned-hug. Raymond, she said, voice steady. Took you long enough. They talked haltingly at first, apologies traded like cards in a long-overdue game, then deeper, laughter punctuating the ache. Ray shared stories. Thomas's terrible two-step at the station Christmas party, the clandestine drives to the coast where they'd hold hands on empty beaches. Mom countered with homefront tales, Dad's secret haikus scribbled on napkins, slipped into her purse. Easton and Lila absorbed it, pieces slotting into a mosaic of wholeness, their father not monster or myth, but man, gay and grieving, loving across chasms. In quiet moments, Easton and Alex stole away to the hospital roof, city lights sprawling like a queer constellation. This truth, Easton said one night, wind tugging at their jackets. It's heavy, but it's mine now. Ours. Alex pulled him close. Kiss salt-tanged and sure. We'll carry it together. Like always. Haven Threads benefited. 2. The story leaking to local press in a controlled way. Donations surging as Portland's heartstrings tugged. Kai, the 17-year-old, even joined an art circle, his own sketches blooming tentative on newsprint. But under the triumphs simmered shadows, Mom's treatments faltering, her frame shrinking like a watercolor in rain. October's chill crept into Portland like an uninvited guest, leaves carpeting the streets in crimson confessionals. Easton marked the shift in small rebellions, swapping Haven Threads fluorescent bulbs for warm LEDs. Commissioning Alex to mural the youth center's lobby with vines twisting into rainbows, symbols of growth from hidden roots. Mom came home on a crisp Wednesday. Hospice bed installed in the living room of her bungalow, the same house from the drawings. Now Easton's de facto base camp. She insisted on it. No sterile cages for me. Let me die where I dreamed. The space transformed under their hands. Lila's quilts draped the walls. Ray's nautical lanterns casting golden pools. Alex's fresh sketches pinned like talismans. Easton cooked sloppy joes from Dad's recipe, retrieved from a church cookbook Mom had annotated in the margins. Evenings blurred into vigils, stories swapped over Scrabble tiles. Mom's laughter frail but fierce as she trounced Ray in wordplay, spelling redemption on a triple-word score. Yet beneath the domesticity, tension coiled. Alex's ex, Jordan, a sculptor with a chiseled jaw and trust fund edges, had surfaced via gallery invites. His text to Alex a siren call of old collaborations. Easton brushed it off at first. Insecurities buried under caregiving's grind. He's water under the bridge, Alex assured, nuzzling Easton's neck during stolen showers. But Easton caught the glances, the way Alex's phone lit up during family dinners. Silenced but insistent. One rain-lashed afternoon, while Mom napped and Lila ran errands, Easton rifled Alex's sketch bag for markers, unearthing a crumpled envelope, Jordan's handwriting, loopy and intimate. Miss Our Fire. That loft show in Brooklyn, Us Against the World. Come back? Attached, a ticket stub from a NYC flight, dated last month. Easton's stomach plummeted. The pieces snapping cruel, Alex's late nights, the sudden silences. The drawing's delivery like a preemptive goodbye. Confrontation brewed that evening, after Ray's departure and Lila's shift to her own apartment. Mom dozed to Jeopardy reruns, oxygen mask hissing softly. In the kitchen, Easton laid the envelope on the counter. Voice low thunder. When were you gonna tell me? Or was this whole supportive boyfriend act just research for your next heartbreak series? Alex froze mid-pour of chamomile. Mug clattering. It's not, Jordan's desperate. Clinging to ghosts. I went to the show for closure. Yeah. But I came back to you. Every time. Closure? Easton's laugh was bitter bark. You booked a flight while mom's dying. While I'm cracking open my family's crypt for you to paint over. Feels like betrayal wrapped in watercolor. Alex. The argument escalated. Voices rising till mom's cough cut through like a referee's whistle. They retreated to the porch, the swing creaking under their weight. Rain pattering on the awning like accusatory fingers. Alex admitted it piecemeal, the pull of Jordan's chaos. The validation of gallery crowds chanting his name. The fear that Easton's world, non-profit grit, family mending, would eclipse his own fragile ego. You're building something real, he said. Eyes downcast. Haven threads. This healing. I'm just sketches on paper. What if I fade? Easton recoiled. The swing's chains groaning. Fade? You've been my anchor. You idiot. The one who saw me when I was invisible. But if you need to chase shadows to feel seen, then go. I won't chain you. Silence stretched. Broken only by distant sirens, Portland's nocturnal pulse. Alex reached for his hand. But Easton pulled away. The touch now tainted. I love you, Alex whispered. But love's not enough if I'm scared. By morning. Alex was gone, bag packed. A note on the counter, taking space to figure my lines. Forgive me when you're ready. The drawings are yours, truths to keep. Easton crumpled it, throat burning, and turned to Mom's room. She was awake. Frail form propped on pillows. The sketchbook open in her lap. Saw you two out there, she said, patting the bed. Heart's breaking sound like hail on tin. Easton sank beside her, head in her lap like when he was small, her fingers carding his hair. He chose himself. Like Dad did. A tuneless lullaby from his toddler years. Your father chose fear, not himself. Big difference. And that boy? He's young. Artists bleed easy. Give him time, or don't. But don't let it curdle you. Her words lingered as Easton threw himself into Haven Threads, the non-profit a bulwark against the void. He expanded the art program, inviting Ray to guest lead sessions on Drawing Your Hidden Self, crooked lines of queer cops and lost loves projected on screens, kids like Kai nodding, pencils flying. Donations poured in. A viral TikTok of Easton's raw speech at a fundraiser. Truth isn't a luxury, it's oxygen for the soul, garnering shares from celebs in LA. But nights alone in the childhood home echoed hollow. The swing mocking him with memories of Alex's laughter. November brought Thanksgiving. A forced feast at the bungalow, Lila's turkey, Ray's chowder, a smattering of youth volunteers turned chosen family. Mom held court from her armchair, regaling with tales of Dad's disastrous attempts at pie. Her color brighter under palliative care's careful dance. Easton played host. Smile pinned like a boutonniere. But his eyes strayed to the empty chair where Alex should have sat. Sketching caricatures. After pie, pecan. Sticky sweet, Mom pulled him aside. Her grip surprisingly firm. The journal, she said, nodding to a drawer. Thomas's. Locked it away after he left. Keys on my chain. Read it, son. For both of us. Alone in the attic that night. Dust motes swirling like fireflies. Easton Pride opened the leather-bound tome. Thomas's entries spanned years. Rookie crushes on Ray amid 70s raids. The terror of AIDS wards smelling of bleach and bleach. The guilt of fatherhood's facade. Easton's got my eyes. Ellie says. but his smile, pure light. What right have I to dim it? Later, kissed Ray tonight? Porch shadows hiding us. God forgive me, or don't. This love's my salvation. The final pages chronicled the flight, can't drag them into this storm. Ray understands. Distant. If you read this, live loud, put love without apology. The tears soaked the vellum. Easton's sobs muffled in flannel sleeves. His father hadn't fled cowardice alone, but to shield them from a world that would have drowned them all. The hidden truth wasn't shame, but sacrifice, a gay man's quiet heroism in an era of shadows. Word spread to Ray via Lila's text, and he arrived at dawn. Eyes red-rimmed, the two men poring over pages in the kitchen like archaeologists unearthing kin. He wrote about you, too, Ray said, voice cracking. The kids wanted you both to know you were his anchor, even when he cut loose. Mom joined them, Walker clicking, and for the first time, the trio, widow, lover, son, held the fragments together. No grand gestures, just coffee and quiet. We loved him, Mom said simply. Different ways, but true. But peace fractured mid-December. Snow dusting Portland's evergreens like powdered sugar on wounds. Alex returned, not with fanfare, but a knock at 2 a.m. Snowflakes melting in his curls. A canvas under his arm. I sold the loft, he said. Breathless. Jordan's chaos. It was smoke. You're the fire. If you'll have me. Easton stood in the doorway. Heart a war drum. Mom's journal heavy in his pocket. You left when it got hard. What makes now different? Alex unrolled the canvas. Their story, rendered in bold strokes, the childhood home reborn, vines of haven threads weaving through, figures entwined on the swing, Easton and Alex, hands linked, faces turned to a dawn sky. In the margins, tiny portraits, Thomas and Ray, Lila laughing, Mom with her Bible recast as a shield of light. I went to New York. Faced the mirror. Realized my art's empty without you, the depth, the heart. I'm all in. No more sketches. The real thing. Temptation tugged. Alex's touch electric as ever. But Easton stepped back. I need to believe it. Not just see it. Say, for Mom. For the holidays. Prove it in the lines we live. Alex nodded, eyes shining, and moved into the guest room. The house filling with tentative rhythms, shared shifts at Haven. Pancake mornings where he sketched Mom's hands knitting scarves for the youth. Easton watched warily, thawing slow as spring thaw. Their touches lingering longer, fingers brushing over dish soap. Knees knocking under tables. Christmas Eve brought the storm, Mom's fever spiked. Breaths shallow as winter wind. The family gathered, Ray reading Frost by lamplight, Lila stringing lights, Alex at the piano plunking carols off-key. As midnight tolled, Mom rallied enough to gift them each a token, to Ray, Dad's old badge, to Lila, a locket with baby photos, to Easton, the keychain with the journal spare. To Alex, a pressed hydrangea from the yard, taped to a note. Art heals. Thank you for seeing us. She slipped away at 3:17 a.m., hand in Easton's, a sigh like release. The room stilled, snow falling silent outside, the world holding breath. The funeral was a quiet affair. befitting Eleanor's steel-spined grace. No televangelist sermons. Just a Unitarian minister who'd volunteered at Haven Threads. Speaking of lives woven from imperfect threads into tapestries of redemption. Mary's overlooked the Willamette. Bells tolling as mourners, dozens strong. From nonprofit kids clutching carnations to raise old PD cronies in ill-fitting suits, filed into pews worn smooth by generations of Portland sins and salvations. Easton stood at the casket, hand resting on polished oak. Mom's Bible open to Psalms beside a spray of hydrangeas. She'd planned it meticulously, no tears. Easton. Laughter for the living. But grief clawed deep. A hollow ache where her coughs had been the house's heartbeat. Alex flanked him. Arm as steady anchor. Their fingers interlaced under the program's fold, public now. Unapologetic. The queer founders of a mended legacy. Afterward, at the reception in Haven's multipurpose room, transformed with twinkling lights and Lila's scones, the toasts flowed like the river, Kai's halting misses. Harper gave me mittens once. Said hands warm the heart, Ray's gruff, she was tougher than any beat I walked. And twice as kind. Alex raised a glass last. Voice steady. Eleanor saw truths we hid from ourselves. Painted them into family with sheer will. To her, and the loves she let live. Easton's eyes met his over the rim. A spark igniting the embers. That night, back at the bungalow, now there's deeded in Mom's will with a note, fill it with noise. Dad would have wanted. They made love on the porch swing. Snowflakes dusting bare skin. Bodies reclaiming the space of old secrets. It was tender. Fierce, Alex's whispers of, I'm here, mapping Easton's scars. Easton's hands anchoring Alex's wandering heart. No promises uttered. Just presence, raw. The kind of romance forged in fire's afterglow. Spring unfurled tentative. Cherry blossoms carpeting Belmont like confetti from a hard-won parade. Haven Threads bloomed under dual stewardship, Easton's operational grit paired with Alex's visionary murals. The youth center now a canvas of stories, walls alive with portraits of hidden loves. From 70s bathhouse rebels to modern tiny home triumphs. The drawing that started it all hung in the lobby. Reframed, Thomas's watercolor. Easton and Alex's additions inking new chapters, vines extending to embrace figures of Kai. Violet. Even ghostly outlines of Mom and Dad. Hands finally linked. Ray became a fixture. His bungalow sold for a condo downtown. Closer to the action. He mentored the art circle. His cop's eye spotting the quiet fractures in kids' sketches, that lines got anger. Son. Let's give it words. Violet. Ever the baker? Launched a sister program, Threads and Dough, teaching resilience through rising yeast and mending seams. The family, fractured and reforged, gathered Sundays for chowder and check-ins, laughter eclipsing the gaps. But humaneness demanded shadows. Easton's healing wasn't linear. Nightmares woke him, Dad's flight replayed, Mom's cough echoing, Alex's bag at the door. Therapy sessions at a queer center off Alberta unpacked it. You're not your father's echo, his counselor said. A trans man with tattoos mirroring Easton's vines. You're the bridge he couldn't build. Alex proved it in actions, canceling a solo gallery show to co-curate Haven's first exhibit. Hidden Homes, Queer Portlanders' Stories in Mixed Media. Proceeds funding a Ray Thomas Scholarship for at-risk youth. Their love deepened. Not in grand gestures but granular ones. Alex memorizing Easton's coffee order during board marathons. Easton surprising him with a weekend in Astoria. walking the bluff where Ray and Dad had dreamed aloud. One June evening, as the solstice sun dipped low, Easton proposed, not on bended knee, but amid the hydrangeas, sketchbook in hand. He'd drawn it himself, clumsy lines but heartfelt, their future home. Vines thicker, two figures on the swing with a child between, adopted, maybe, a kid like Kai needing roots. "Marry me?" he asked, voice rough with vulnerability. Not to fix anything, just to build. Alex's yes was a kiss, salt and sun-warmed, the drawing smudged between them. They wed in August. A backyard affair at the bungalow, Ray officiating in his old uniform. Lila as witness. Haven kids scattering petals like protests turned celebrations. Vows exchanged under the oak. "I see you, Easton, all shadows and light. And I hold you, Alex, no more running." The hidden truth, once a grenade, became Foundation, a non-profit gala that fall auctioned Thomas's originals. Proceeds launching a Legacy Lives fund for elder queer care. Easton keynote, voice steady, "We uncover not to wound, but to weave. My father's love was silenced by fear, mine roars for the silenced. Because every hidden home deserves a door flung wide." Years folded forward, Haven Threads franchise to Seattle. Alex's murals gracing national exhibits. Their adopted son, Jasper, a freckled firecracker rescued from a foster shuffle, swinging on the porch with Kai. Now a junior counselor. Ray passed gently at 82. His service a block party with bagpipes and beer, Mom's Bible, annotated with love notes, sat on Easton's desk as talisman. At 42, Easton Harper paused on that same porch, sketchbook in lap, hazel eyes tracing the horizon. The drawing had evolved, pages filled with new ghosts, Jasper's first crush, Lila's wedding, Alex's silver threads in his curls. Betrayal's scar faded to silver, conflict to compost for growth. He'd uncovered not just truth, but grace, in family reforged, love unapologetic, a life where hidden homes became havens. And in the quiet, as dusk painted the sky lavender, Easton smiled, "Woods."